When you look back at your time captaining, who was your inspiration to become the captain and go to where you did?
Yeah, geez. I never have probably had like a sort of person in terms of that captaincy figure. Obviously, you like certain players growing up and stuff like that. I think somebody that was almost before his time when I was coming through was Chris Patterson. Like he mostly obviously is probably one of the earlier professionals. Really came through and he didn't drink and stuff like that. But just the way he probably applied himself in his training and his preparation. Obviously, he was a goal kicker as well, and I think I was fortunate enough when I first came into Edinburgh. I was just a young fella coming through, but he was always like willing to give people his time as well as like me being able to see him and his work ethic and stuff like that. I think probably that rubbed off on me a little bit as well, and I think I was lucky, and sometimes you're lucky in the sporting world. You get opportunities to meet people from different fields and stuff like that as well. And I was always fascinated by the military, and I was very fortunate over the years to meet people that had been in the SAS and stuff like that, and that really intrigued me. All that stuff, that performance under pressure, the teamship, and stuff like that. And I think I really learned a lot from meeting people like that.
That's interesting. So did you kind of take what you learned from the kind of SES boys and the army boys and apply it to your own training?
Well, I think I certainly tried, at times. Um, Probably because I was interested in it. It really sort of fascinated me, and rugby is obviously when you're in it, it's very important. But the guys in the military, we all know what they're sort of dealing with when they go into the theatre of war and stuff like that. And that ability to really rely on your teammates, that was probably the part of it that really interested me because they are dealing with life and death at times. But I think if you can understand it well enough and really try to bring it to life in a rugby context, it can be really really useful. And I
Mm.
think nobody does it better than the guys in the military.
Yeah, we've had a couple of military boys on, but we had a guy called Brian Wood on, and his story is it's unreal. So he was in the Battle of Danny Boy. So essentially, they got out an armored vehicle. I think there was four or six of them, and they had to kind of leapfrog across a battlefield while getting shot at by machine guns and kind of take over this. But it was when he was describing it to me, I was like, that is literally insanity. And he also described the fact that he was in an armored vehicle and there was a kind of what do you call the vodka bottles that have the fire on
Oh
them?
yeah, yeah. No, I
K
wouldn't be sure though than him, but
Kalashnikov or something like that. Yeah, so that got
yeah.
launched through the top of the car. So one of his pals got hit, was on fire. There was then fuel leaking into the car. So he was watching the fire and watching the fuel, and he was like, "I'm about to blow up." And just some of the stories that these guys have and what they put themselves through and the discipline that it must take and the mindset they must have not to freak out, like, that is super, super special. Like, there's only a select bunch of people that can, like, truly go through that and be level.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, isn't it? Because you mentioned it there, that discipline. So and there in that aspect of life, of work, if you can call it that, it's like how disciplined are they in around their training to it comes back to that goal kicking thing. How disciplined could I be to actually put myself under pressure so my process is going to hold up. So how disciplined are they in their training? So when they do end up in a shit situation, which clearly that is, how hard have they actually trained and how have they been kidding themselves or have they actually prepared themselves for a shitstorm? And ultimately, I think the military guys, I think everybody could probably agree they'd probably do it the best.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Do you kinda miss that? Like, whenever I talk to I've had a good few of the rugby boys on, and whenever I talk to them, they always talk about the kinda without sounding cliche, the kind of the brotherhood aspect of kind of like you're on tour with the boys, you have a laugh, you like bam each other up, you're taking the piss out of each other, but you're all having fun And a lot of the times when that ends, people struggle with the fact that their social circle isn't as intact anymore. Like they don't have that, you know, however long away with the Lions tour, for example, 8 weeks in Australia. You're all staying in the one hotel. You're always taking the piss out of each other. Do you kind of miss that aspect?
Oh, geez, you miss it, for sure. I mean, yeah, you definitely miss it. Like, it's probably, the best days of your life, really, if I'm being honest, in terms of you just can't replicate it. You know what I mean? Yeah, we've all worked hard to be there, for sure. And I will say that, about players, and rugby's a bloody hard sport. But, once you get in there, listen, you get well looked after. You know what I mean? You stay in nice hotels, you're with the boys, you're having a bit of fun as well as, the serious side of it. But you got to marry the two up. And I think the best environments I've ever been involved in is the ones that get that right. Is when can you have fun? When can you be both? And then flick the switch, right, we're on, and really getting that balance right. Because, having fun, and coming back to the military as well, they talk about humor and trying to have fun where they can as well. It's so important because,
Yeah.
like everything, isn't it? It's like if you go into work and you're enjoying yourself and having fun, you're probably gonna want to go back again tomorrow, aren't you? Or certainly more so than not. So yeah, it's, I guess, I'm a bit introverted, so I wasn't like, I'm not extroverted or anything like that. And I think it is difficult sometimes, coming out of the game and retiring, and because you almost, it's really easy when you're a rugby player, because you get up in the morning and you're like, boom, you're in there. It's like, everything counts, when you're, what you're eating, your preparation, how you're turning up to training, all blah, blah, blah. Your identity is really easy because you're a competitor and you've got to have to probably perform on the weekend. But as soon as you stop, um, you're not that. You're the same person. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, and that's where it can become dangerous. A lot of people have got caught up in the fact that I'm so and so. I'm just a rugby player, and you're so much more than that. But I understand why people can struggle. Come out of the game as well.
Yeah, so it's almost like identity, like you kind of you lose, some of your identity when you come out of the game.
Yeah, yeah, well, exactly, because and time moves quickly, as well. It's, because it's an easy trap to fall in it. Some you'd listen, if you're a rugby player, you're doing well, and you're getting pats on the back, whether you're in Scotland or, England, if you're an Englishman, or whatever. It's, people warm to that. People like sport, don't they? And it's like, but I think we've all seen it now, and with the rise of social media, it's when things don't go well, that can very quickly flip, can it? So it's very important to understand that you're not just the sportsman or sportswoman. You're an individual as well outside of the sport, and I think having that real identity and real clarity that you're not defined by your sport is really critical. And I think, I still believe it can be done so much better. Like, there's a lot of people talking about it now, which is great, but I think it'd be great, in my opinion, especially in rugby, because you don't get paid the money, footballers do, that, certainly your academy players, or even professional players should be made to do, studies alongside, playing the game, and making
Yeah.
sure that they're ready to, when they do actually step out, they're genuinely ready, and they don't just think they are.
Yeah, I had this conversation with, I think it was Blair Kinghorn, and he was saying he said it's weird because rugby players have their career almost in reverse. He was like, if you start a job, normally you start at a base salary and then you work your way up until you're 16, you have a bigger salary, then you retire. And he was like, well, with rugby players, it's the opposite. You get into the team, you're really well paid, but you're really well paid for a very short stint of time, and then you're out. And like what once, when your body, when you hit that 35 mark to 40, I mean, your body's going through a lot of changes and you just can't keep up with the 20, I hate to say it now, but like the 20 to 30-year-olds, you know? And he said, yeah, so it's weird. It's almost like you've spun your career the wrong way around. And a lot of people can't handle that. Like they kind of come out of rugby and they think, like, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like rugby was my thing and I have no idea what to do. But nowadays, as you were saying, like, it's quite nice to see, like, Jamie Batty is now a qualified pilot, which is, like, insane, like, so a lot of the boys are a little bit more forward thinking.
Yeah, they definitely are, which is great. And I think, obviously, with the development of professionalism, and people sort of seeing some of the struggles, people have went through coming out of the game as well. And I know people, personally as well that have struggled, and it's horrible to see, and some of the, people that have been, life and soul, and one of the proper boys, but they come out, they lose that identity, and it comes back to what I was saying before. Things move quickly as well. So you're a player here, but then the next player comes in, and then everybody's talking about him, and all of a sudden, everything goes silent. So it's vitally important, and any young players playing the game now, I'd very much encourage them to, yeah, put everything to rugby, but definitely be proactive, find time, whether it's night school, 1, 2 nights a week, whatever it is, your day off, find time, study, get another passion, and I think it makes you a better rugby player as well.
If you guys enjoyed that clip, please do me a huge favor before you go and head over to our Into the Mind podcast official page where we have the raw, uncut Into the Mind podcast, and hit that subscribe button. And the more subscribers we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the show. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. And I'll see you all real soon.